we're concentrating on cheap plays, contrarian plays, and good plays for GPPs on DraftKings. These are my NFL DFS picks for Week 10. Let's go right into the quarterbacks. Actually, before that, I did want to address two major factors in Week 10 in this main slate. So there are two games that the weather is projected to be over 25 miles per hour. That's the Jaguars Green Bay game. It's in Green Bay, and weather is starting to be a factor. It was a little bit of a factor 2 weeks ago. That was Week 8. Not a factor last week like we projected, but this week it's going to be a factor, and it's going to be a factor basically throughout the rest of the season as it's getting colder and we're getting close to winter time. So Green Bay, we all know it's cold there, but the wind, it could be the windiest game of the slate. So that's going to decrease some of those big plays. It's going to be more short pass plays. It's going to be more run game. And, just keep that in mind as we go through these picks. Also, the Texans-Browns game in Cleveland, similar situation. Probably not as bad, not as windy, but both games. When we're talking about over 15 miles an hour, it's like, probably not a big deal. But over 25 miles an hour, I'd monitor that situation very closely. It is a big deal. It's very hard to complete those deep passes. Okay, with that out the way, now I don't go over a lot of obvious picks in these videos too much because, hey, they're obvious. And the two most obvious picks in this whole slate, and they're both quarterbacks, is my top two super elite options in the highest scoring game. The biggest was projected to be the highest scoring game, biggest shootout, the shootout of all shootouts. And that's Kyler Murray and Josh Allen. Me, myself, I prefer Josh Allen. Kyler Murray's on fire right now. Everyone's talking about him, or at least they should be. And Josh Allen is cheaper. He's more unlikely to score more points, but because he's cheaper and he's going to probably be a little bit more contrarian than Kyler Murray, I love Josh Allen this week. So those are the two popular options and pretty obvious options. Let's go into some a little bit less popular and less obvious options. Well, after this guy, because Jared Goff's going up against the Seahawks, I've derived to this conclusion that the Seahawks pass defense is horrible and Jared Goff has a ton of upside. Also could be another shootout. At least Vegas suspects it to be. I don't know so much. I'm not as confident in that. But nonetheless, when you have a quarterback going against the Seahawks defense, I'm always rolling with that. And this is an obvious choice. Everyone's going to be going towards Jared Goff, including me. His price is good. Matchup is incredible. And he should be able to do some things. Why not throw the ball this game? This could be Goff's best game of the season. He's put up 31 points against the Bills, 28 against Washington. So, yeah, if he's able to get more than 31 points, you want him in your entry. A guy who's a little bit less obvious that I am really excited about for GPPs is Tom Brady. $100 cheaper. Wait, Jared Goff was. Did I say? I don't know if I said his. Jared Goff. Sorry, Jared Goff is 6,500. I read that. I was looking at something else. I was right. Jared Goff 6,500. Tom Brady is 6,300. And why do I like Tom Brady? Well, he put up 5 fantasy points last week. He was basically a meme. All the Buccaneers players were huge disappointments, and people get emotional. They carry that, and there's recency bias. We see him put up decent performance. Look, 22 points, then 10, then 23, then 36. Boom. Then back to 14, then 39, 40 fantasy points against the Raiders. So it's all up and down, okay? That's what we like. Boom or bust type of players. In Bruce Arians' offense, we know that there is a huge boom sometimes. We saw with last year, Jameis Winston, there was some huge busts too when he threw 5 interceptions in a game. And so, yeah, he performed poorly last week. That means he's going to be more contrarian. Less people will be picking him. He has a good matchup. He has Antonio Brown back. They're relatively healthy. And it's Tom Brady. He usually does bounce back regardless. And so absolutely love it. Price is decent. He will be fairly contrarian. He won't be as popular as the last 3 quarterbacks I just named. I think it's pretty obvious why I like him if you've been watching these DFS videos. There's a lot of options to go, but I want to talk about 2 more players. And I really thought about mentioning Carr, but I don't want to. I want to talk about the quarterback facing him, and that is Drew Lock. So $100 more expensive than Derek Carr. I think Drew Lock is similar to Tom Brady as far as his inconsistency, his up and down performances. We see him put up like negative points. Well, he got hurt that game, but you get the point. He's put up terrible performances and really good performances, and he's been kind of rolling the past couple games. Going up against the Raiders, weather is not a factor. It's in Vegas, should be really good. But keep in mind that this is a risky play, and he does have a low floor but a high ceiling as well. Maybe it's a Melvin Gordon game. Maybe it's a Phillip Lindsay game. Maybe it's a Drew Lock game. But I think it's going to be a game for some. Maybe it's a Brandon McManus type of game. I think they'll be able to move the ball, and someone's going to score on the Raiders. That's what I'm thinking here. Drew Lock priced at $5,500. And then my punt, which I do like. And, sometimes I give you guys players and I say, look, I'm probably not going to play this player. And I just give you that player because the price is super cheap or it's fun to talk about or something interesting is there or some kind of angle, some kind of scenario. With this punt here, I'm actually going to play it. And, of course, it's probably not going to pan out because you got guys like Kyler Murray and Josh Allen. Now, those guys are about, 50%? Yeah, 50% more expensive than Alex Smith, who's about $5K, and those guys are about, 8K, $7,500, $8K. So, you have to pay up a decent amount more for those guys. So if Alex Smith can give you that same value, and I'm doing the math off the top of my head, and so 50% more. So right, so if Alex Smith gives you 20 fantasy points, and Kyler Murray and Josh Allen tie for 30, that's going to be the same value. Hopefully, yes, my math is correct. Yes. So, 30 points from Kyler Murray, okay? Let's say he's the best quarterback. 30 points from Josh Allen. Let's say he's tied for the best quarterback. And you get 20 fantasy points from Alex Smith. Very doable, right? I'm giving you a very doable, very reasonable number. He faced a tougher defense in the Giants. He played most of the game, not all the game, but he was, brought in after a weird, crazy injury to Kyle Allen's leg. I mean, Alex Smith is human. I'd assume he'd have to be at least a little bit scared, like, oh crap, this guy's leg got all mangled up too, kind of like mine. It's so scary. Then he put up my point is he put up 17 fantasy points and he threw 3 picks. So of course it's a totally different scenario, totally different game script. They had to throw the ball, and I think they were playing from behind most of the game. He was checking down to McKissick. Like, it's a different scenario, but I'm just saying that 30 fantasy points for the best quarterback this week is roughly a good estimate. Okay, 30, 35, okay? Like, that's a lot of fantasy points for the best quarterback of this slate. So if Alex Smith can put up 20, that's going to return value. We're going to be able to spend a lot more on positions like wide receiver and running back, or maybe even squeeze in the best tight end of this slate, Darren Waller, most expensive tight end of this slate. So it's a great option. I think it's amazing. By the way, he's facing the Lions. I don't know if I said that. It's a early game, and Lions defense sucks. The team's a little bit unraveling. I don't know what else to say. I really like this pick, and I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do it. This storyline could be kind of cool if Alex Smith wins and he has a good performance. Let's see, and he's probably a bit nervous and a bit rusty. I'm talking about him this year. But he has played a little bit in real life action. We saw him at week 5. says 17 attempts week 5. Not a good, Rams defense was great. Then he played almost the whole game last week 9. So at least he's got some action. That would be a little bit worrisome if he hasn't played at all this year. But he has. Again, Alex Smith, ladies and gentlemen, 5,200 for my quarterback punt of the week. For running backs, last week, one of the most disappointing performances was James Conner against the Cowboys. Really no reason to think that he's going to suck again. He's been amazing this year. And another good matchup against the Bengals. Another good game script against the Bengals. Obviously, the game script didn't work out how he thought against the Cowboys. Cowboys almost snuck in and got a win last week. Nonetheless, James Conner, the price is not good. But everything else is great. As far as him being contrarian, everything adds up. The price is not good, therefore he'll be owned less. He had a terrible, disappointing performance last week that probably cost a lot of people dubs. So he's going to be less owned. Okay, with all that said, I do like him, and we're going to be able to spend up because I'm going to have a lot of great punts for you guys. Keep in mind, this is the main slate. Just keep that in mind, okay? So, because I'm gonna have something really cool to talk about here in about 60 seconds or so. Next up in the next tier is Miles Sanders. I think this one is not going to be contrarian, but this is one I like. He'll return value. It'll be a Miles Sanders game. Absolutely love it going against the Giants at 6,400. And then we got Chase Edmonds, a little bit similar situation to James Conner. Price is not beautiful. And he didn't do well last week. But he got pretty much all the snaps. 25 rush attempts and 3 targets. That's 28 total touches. Benjamin didn't even play, so the backup was DJ Foster, I think his name is, and he didn't get much work. I honestly don't know. I'm thinking he got 5 carries, something like that. So we know this is the workhorse. We know it's a fairly good matchup against the Bills. The matchup don't even matter. It's a great game script where it's a high-scoring game. Bills' defense is not great, and Chase Edmonds can catch the ball. Now, there's a small chance that Drake is going to play, and this, he's going to take a hit at his value. Now, my guess is that Drake is not going to play. I'm thinking he won't play, or if he does, he'll be severely limited. And so Drake being questionable, being a game time decision, actually makes Chase Edmonds even more contrarian. He'll be less owned because he was a disappointment last week. He'll be less owned because he doesn't have a super cheap price, not an amazing price tag. And he'll be less owned because Kenyon Drake has a realistic shot of playing this week, and everyone knows that. So between Miles Sanders and Chase Edmonds, dang near the same price, $100 difference. Chase Edmonds will be much more contrarian between those two. I think Miles Sanders sticks out and is a very obvious choice. Another one that's pretty obvious, but not as obvious, is Gio Bernard, who I think is going to have a good game. He's having to face a really tough matchup against the Steelers, but Gio Bernard, great pass catching back. Joe Burrow is going to throw the ball all day, every day. He does every single game. And so it's a great check down option. We play full PPR. So check downs is worth a lot of points. Keep in mind, approximately 1 target for a running back is equivalent to 2.5 carries. And so if we can get this guy up to 6-7 targets, oh boy, that's workhorse numbers just with the targets alone, just in the pass game alone, right? Yeah, 5,400 though. Obvious choice, a much more obvious choice. Well, to me at least, because a lot of people are asking me about this guy, and that's Duke Johnson. And I'm all in on Duke Johnson being a top 10 running back this week. All in. Everything is great about him. Now, he will not be contrarian, but he'll probably won't be as used, as owned as he should be. So still a little bit of a point of attack here where we can get Duke Johnson and not feel sick about it. The price is amazing. The matchup against the Browns is amazing. It is a windy game. The weather is a factor. That's shorter passes, more run plays. That's Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson's going to catch the ball. He can catch. Duke Johnson's going to run the ball. David Johnson is out. Okay? He's ruled out. So I love this pick. Yeah, it's tough to give a number, but let's say he's owned like 16%, or he should really be owned like 25%. We'll see, though. I could be wrong. I'm telling you right now, he's not going to be contrarian, but maybe he won't be super chalk either. He might be in between. Now, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Let me take a sip. Welcome to the 4K club. I have to type these names in. So 4K options that are good. Travis Homer, assuming Chris Carson is out. That's a great option. He's much cheaper than DJ Dallas. I think DJ Dallas is $1,100 more expensive. So Travis Homer, they pretty much got the similar type of work. Same amount of touches approximately. So yeah, 4K right there. One that I'm excited about is Latavius Murray. Do you know that Latavius Murray is averaging nearly 10 rush attempts and 2 targets, 1.75 targets per game? That's pretty good. That's 12 touches a game. That's really good. And if you like, do you like the Saints to win this game? Hey, do you like the Saints defense this game? They're playing the Niners, by the way. If you said yes to both those questions, because I'm not so confident in those two answers, but I do recognize the Saints are probably going to win. Niners are probably not going to do well. I'm still holding out for the Niners to be okay, not to get embarrassed. But if you think the Niners are going to get embarrassed, this is your guy right here, Latavius Murray, $4,000. That's minimum price. Going up against the Niners, why would you play Kamara when you're up by 3 touchdowns, right? You're going to go with Latavius Murray. He's actually been okay this year. The touchdowns haven't came. He's had one good game against the Lions where the touchdowns did come. Other than that, no touchdowns. So, yeah, he is going to be touchdown dependent and game script dependent, but the game script is he's facing the Niners. Okay, so here's the big one. This is the one I want to talk about. Mike Davis is, for lack of a better word, incorrectly priced, okay? So Mike Davis, I think in the other slates, the other matchups on the other contests on DraftKings, I think he's around 6,400, something like that. So his price is normal. Like that's exactly what it should be, which is the same price as Miles Sanders. But on the main slate, because they assumed that Christian McCaffrey was going to play or whatever, these are just came out early, whatever the case may be, Mike Davis, who's a top 10 running back, might be top 5 this week, is priced at $4,000. He's going to be, I was going to say he's going to be chalk, but I mean, sure, he's going to be chalk, but because he's priced at $4,000, if people don't do their research and they're casually drafting, they're on DraftKings on the app, there's a great chance that they won't see Mike Davis. And a lot of entries come from that. People take out their app while they're at work or they're on the John and take about 5 minutes and submit one entry into the GPP and hope they win. And that casual player, that casual entry, probably won't see Mike Davis. Now, they might search for it, but when you're scrolling and you see all these, I'll show you right here. When you see all these 4,000s, look at that. There's like 100 of them. Maybe not 100, but probably like 75, 80. Yeah, maybe 100. There's 100 names with 4,000 in no particular order other than the team. So you'd have to do a lot of scrolling, and a lot of people don't look at that. So yes, Mike Davis, he has twice as much value as any other player in this slate. Christian McCaffrey has been ruled out, and I love him this week. Like there's just no doubt about it. I absolutely love him. Very safe floor, good ceiling, and yeah, you probably want to pick him. That's all I'm gonna say. Now, if I decide to enter a lot, I'm going to fade him in some lineups. But I'm definitely picking him in a lot of my lineups. You're gonna get return unless something freakish happens, like he gets hurt right away. You're gonna get your value. So I'm gonna be picking a Mike Davis. No brainer there. I just wanted to say that the Dolphins do play later, and make sure you do note when these guys are playing, because if you do have a questionable player or you have Chase Edmonds and you want to pivot, just know, okay, Chase Edmonds, okay, he plays in the later games. You know, who else plays in the later games? If you have a player that's playing in the later games, put them in flex, okay? So you want to, it's not letting me put them in flex, whatever. There it is, okay. So put them in the flex spot. That way, if there's something that needs to be changed at 4 p.m. Eastern or whatever, 1 p.m. Pacific, you can get rid of this player and put in another player. Now, if I put Hopkins at wide receiver, I can still do that, but I'm limited to a wide receiver. So the veteran move I always talk about in season-long leagues applies in DFS as well, especially this week with guys like Drake and Nick Chubb, who's actually like, I guess 99% chance Nick Chubb's going to play, but still, I think he's still on IR technically, so we'll probably know tomorrow, Saturday. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of these situations here, and especially if you're thinking about picking a Dolphins running back, that's a big one with guys like Matt Breida questionable. So just wanted to give you guys that veteran tip that I always do, but it also applies to DFS. For wide receivers, I'm going to go kind of fast with this. Keenan Allen, 7,100. I like Cooper Kupp, 6,900 going against the Seahawks. And I really like Scary Terry. Now, of course, you're picking Alex Smith. This is your man. Maybe you go a little Logan Thomas. Maybe you pick a Washington running back, McKissick/Gibson, who both catch the ball. But I like Terry McLaurin, and then would go Logan Thomas to complete my Alex Smith stack. Now, we talked about the Packers game being windy, and that's going to affect DJ Chark. But then again, to counter that, Jair Alexander, stud cornerback for the Packers, is doubtful. He's not expected to play, so keep that in mind. He would be shutting down DJ Chark if he was playing. Jerry Jeudy, he is projected to ball out this week against the Raiders. Now, he is questionable, so I think when you got a questionable tag, you'll be able to he'll be a little bit more contrarian, and I like that. I'm all about contrarian picks. People would probably rather go with Shepard, and so that's why for $200 cheaper, I'll go with Darius Slayton. Boomer bust type of player, big play potential. I'll go with him to see if he'll get a deep touchdown on the Eagles. And in that same game, I do like Jalen Reagor. I'm going to be fading Fulgham. I like Miles Sanders, like I said, and I like Jalen Reagor. Only 4,200. Lots of potential and upside with this guy. And then we got Danny Amendola, who I talked about last week. Same situation. Not Marvin Jones. Kenny Golladay is out. Let's see if TJ Hawkinson's going to play. He's a game-time decision, questionable. But when Kenny Golladay is out, Amendola gets a ton of targets. 10 targets last game, 15 fantasy points. He did quite well. Josh Reynolds as well. Really, any Rams wide receiver. But just wanted to point out Josh Reynolds is 3,500. He's been playing well. Maybe he sucks this game, but some wide receiver should do well. Goff should do well. The passing game should do well. Something's going to happen against the Seahawks. I'm sure of that. And I got 2 punts for you guys. One is Jakeem Grant with Preston Williams on IR. Jakeem Grant started to heat up just a little bit and return value. Let's see if he can get more than 7.5 fantasy points this week. And another punt in that same Jaguars game that we talked about earlier is Chris Conley, minimum price $3,000. with Laviska out, Chris Conley should get a lot of work. 8 targets last game for a minimum price guy. That's really good. Packers defense is pretty bad with Jair Alexander out. And for tight ends, sure, Kittle's the best tight end, most expensive one. Hawkinson, you could go for Hawkinson because he's questionable. Great matchup. He should get a lot of work. Now, he is a game time decision, but no need to panic. He plays in the early wave of games, so 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern he plays. We'll be able to know 90 minutes before if he's a go and keep up. Maybe we'll get some footage or some beat writers will say, hey, he's looking good, everything's fine, or I don't know. He might, sometimes they'll say, oh, look, I don't know. He might be a decoy, and then we get scared and don't play him, and then he goes off. You guys know the drill. There's 2 zones I'm living in. One is the medium zone right here, lukewarm pricing. Mike Gesicki, 4,300. Absolutely love this pick in GPPs. My confidence level in Gesicki is not great, but with Preston Williams out, a good matchup. We know the Chargers D's banged up like every year they are. He should get a lot of targets and do well. Now, the floor is not great. That's what I mean with confidence, but the ceiling is good. The contrarian ship, I just made up that word, is also good. Because for 100 cheaper, we got my guy here who I have a lot of confidence in, Dallas Goedert. 4,200. Love him. Ertz is out, of course. Love Dallas Goedert. It's the obvious pick. And that's why I think Gesicki for 100 more is going to be better for GPPs. I actually, just talking about Gesicki, got more excited about him, and I'm definitely putting him in my GPPs. Just wanted to really quickly say that Tyler Higbee's been banged up. Maybe he's back to last year's status because he's fully healed now. Also, Sean McVay's a dirty snake liar, so we can't believe anything. I don't even know if he said that, but I read that he's fully healed. I'm sure that was an information that was leaked and a lie, a strategic lie. Similar to Mike Gesicki, we got Jordan Reed. Very risky, very high upside. Love him. Only 3,500. We're getting close to minimum price right here. And then, of course, I talked about Logan Thomas if you're doing Alex Smith stack or not, because 3,300, super cheap. Everything's good with Logan Thomas. How many targets did he get last game? 6. Okay, that's pretty good. And then super punt that I probably won't pick, but just want to give you guys that option if you do need a cheaper tight end for one of your alternate lineups or something like that. We do have Tyler Eifert. Laviska is out, new quarterback. Jake Luton, maybe he likes Eifert a little bit more. He got 5 targets last game, which is pretty good for a nearly minimum priced tight end. And for defenses, sort of a crapshoot here unless you want to spend up. I'm probably going to spend up, but I do have one kind of cheapo defense I could go with. So I like the Steelers, 4,400 against the Bengals. I'm ready to roll with them. They hurt our feelings just a little bit last week against the Cowboys, and so maybe they won't be as heavily owned, and that's when I go crazy for them. Packers D, even though Jair Alexander is likely out, I still like them, but the price isn't as great. My favorite defense, other than the Steelers, is the Eagles at 3,600. Going against the Giants. Should be a low-scoring game. Both teams make a lot of mistakes, but nobody makes more mistakes and turns the ball over more than Daniel Jones. That guy is out of control, and so that's why I like the Eagles D at 3,600. I think the price is okay with that. And 2 more defenses. Washington football team. Now, Kenny Golladay is out. Detroit Lions are not that good. Washington defense is decent. They know how to put up points several different ways. And also, Hawkinson is questionable. So if he's out or if he's a decoy or just, severely limited, I mean, there's not too many weapons on this Lions team. So, Marvin Jones probably not going to do well. So all you got to do is stop the running backs and Amendola if that's the case, if Hawkinson's out. And boom, you got yourself a great value defense at 3,200. And dare to say, they got a decent floor. Like, they've been really good this year. Yeah, they've been good. And if you can't afford any of those guys, the cheapest I would go would be the Giants at 2,700. That's going a game we just talked about, that Eagles game. Like I said, it's going to be low scoring. Sure, the Eagles will probably win, but the Giants still have a chance of winning this. And even if they don't, Wentz does make mistakes, and the whole NFC East is fairly sloppy. So let's see what happens. I did write down some other names that I probably won't be targeting too much, except, if I do a lot of entries. And those are the Saints D, Dolphins D, Lions D, Broncos D, Rams D, and Bengals D. Just if you really need to save, a lot of those defenses I just named are much cheaper. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon as well so you turn notifications on. Really helps support, and you won't miss any videos when you do that. We also have a second YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe to that one as well. Fantasy Couch Podcast. I'm going to be going on the Patreon-only live stream tonight. We have lots of fun with that. Make sure you guys check out the Patreon. Link below in the description. Let's go get that W this week, guys. Let's get that win.